Buffaloes win this game against the University of Arizona Wildcats. Final score, Colorado Buffaloes 75 to the Arizona Wildcats 72. Josh Scott from the Colorado Buffaloes just went berserk right there at the end of the game. He wasn't so quick in the first half. I think he only had maybe 4, 6 points, maybe 8 points, but not a whole lot of points. But then in the second half, right there at the end, he just tore us apart. Ristic was having a hard time defending against Josh Scott. Everybody was having a hard time defending against Josh Scott. I mean, if I look at the defensive breakdowns, Tarczewski, with 4, Anderson with 4 defensive breakdowns, Ristic with 4 defensive breakdowns. It was just a lot of players were having defensive breakdowns, of course, but then most of the defensive breakdowns, everybody was having a difficult time with Josh Scott. Josh Scott is 6'10", I think. He's a forward, so he had a very fantastic game. He ended up scoring 26 points in this game. One thing also, that it's not only Josh Scott. I mean, Josh Scott scored 26 points out of the 75 points that the Colorado Buffaloes scored in total. But another big factor was George King from the Colorado Buffaloes. He had, I think it was 14 points. He made 3 3-pointers, and all of those 3-pointers were he was being defended against by Trier, and I kind of throwing Trier underneath the bus here a little bit as far as his defense. Trier ended up with 15 points, I think, in the game. Anderson had 19 points per total, but Trier had 15 points. But it's like Walton was saying, the sportscaster Walton was saying, if you're trading baskets right there at the end, which is kind of what they were doing, what the U of A was doing with the Colorado Buffaloes, then that it wasn't going to work out. It wasn't going to work out in the U of A's favor, because at one point it was on that last shot made by Josh Scott for the Colorado Buffaloes, it was 75 to 65 at one point. I think it was 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game, and then Arizona tried to get back into the game. And then they went on a 7-0 run, but that was as far as they could go, with 72 points. So it was I think it was, right in the beginning, I would notice that King knocked down a couple 3-pointers, big 3-pointers. The Colorado Buffaloes had 5 3-pointers altogether. 3 of those 3-pointers were from King. King had 2. He had 2 3-pointers in the first half, but then in the second half, and I think he had 1 3-pointer. The other person that also did quite well was Gordon. Was Wesley Gordon for the Colorado Buffaloes with, I think he only had 8 points. But the thing about that was really something else about Wesley Gordon was he had 6 assists. which was, really, I think, really beneficial to the Colorado Buffaloes. If you look at the amount of assists, the person that got the most amount of assists was, there was two players that had the most amount of assists for the U of A Wildcats, and one was York with 3 assists, and then the other one was Parker Jackson-Cartwright with 3 assists. Parker Jackson-Cartwright had 4 turnovers though, and that was the killer. That was one of the killers. The University of Arizona Wildcats only had 11 turnovers, and Colorado Buffaloes had 9 turnovers. So, we kept the turnovers really, really low. So we did really good on that, but then, it was just, I think in the end, we couldn't really defend too well against Josh Scott. In those final 3 minutes, they kind of shut the Colorado Buffaloes down, but it was just a little bit too much too late, and it didn't work out for the U of A Wildcats. Another thing that I did notice was the offensive rebounds. I think Arizona had, I think it was 10 offensive rebounds compared to the Colorado Buffaloes, which had 14 offensive rebounds. The U of A did not get out rebounded in this game. I think it was tie, actually. I think they both had 38 total rebounds. Each team had 38 total rebounds, but the Colorado Buffaloes had, like I said, they had 14 offensive rebounds, and I think that was quite valuable. I mean, if you look at the amount of offensive rebounds with Tarzewski he had 7 rebounds, but only one of those were offensive rebounds. But then at the same time, then you look at Anderson for the U of A Wildcats, and he had 10 rebounds in total, and I think he had 4 of those 10 were offensive rebounds. So Anderson was making somewhat of a contribution, but like I said, the defensive breakdowns were quite spread nicely across the U of A Wildcats, and so I think that we had Anderson that had 4 defensive breakdowns at least, and then we had Tarzewski, which had 4 defensive breakdowns. We had Ristic, which had 4 defensive breakdowns. I think York might have had 3 defensive breakdowns or 2 defensive. One person that did really well, actually, considering the amount of time that he only played, was Allen. Allen had, I think he had 2 defensive breakdowns, and both of them were against Fortune, Josh Fortune. I think Josh Fortune had 11. No, he had 13 points. So that was the thing about Josh Fortune. But like I said, Anderson did a really good job as far as defending against pretty much everybody. He did not get, Scott King did not score on Kadeem Allen. So in the future, we might want to put Allen on Fortune. We might want to put Allen on Josh Scott. But the thing about it is Josh Scott is 6'10", and Kadeem Allen is 6'5", so there's a major difference there. I think Josh Scott is a forward, and Kadeem Allen is a guard, so that wouldn't work out. That matchup really wouldn't work out. Who was a good defender against Josh Scott? He was a pretty good defender against Josh Washington got defended, got broken down a few times trying to defend against Josh Scott, and I think Tarczewski had a difficult time defending against Josh Scott. There wasn't really anybody that was a forward. Tollefson might be okay as far as defending against Josh Scott in the future. That might be an option. But anyway, it was the three-pointers. I think it had a little bit of an impact on this game. And then no one could defend against Josh Scott right there at the end. And he pretty much took over the game from 6 minutes until 3 minutes left in the game. He pretty much scored quite a bit of their points. Actually, I think he scored like maybe 12 of their points or something like that. So he stepped up and won this game for the Colorado Buffaloes, I think. And anyway, the U of A Wildcats lose this game against the Colorado Buffaloes. Final score, U of A Wildcats 72 to the Colorado Buffaloes 75.